through the halls of Parliament buildings, past the press offices, is a small but hugely significant room. Matangireia, or the Māori Affairs Select Committee room, is the backdrop we have all become familiar with. Tukutuku panels and carvings flanking journalists and politicians on many occasions. It's also in this room that strategies were formed, decisions made that would impact te iwi Māori for years to come.
It really expresses Māoridom at that time, capturing the arts where they were at. I guess the political aspirations of our people then is expressed so powerfully in this very humble room, I would say, modest room in size. So it's packing a lot in terms of representing who we were as a people at that point.
Dean Whiting is leading the conservation project that will ensure Matangireia is at its optimum for its centenary celebrations in August.
It was a sanctuary of sorts. It was something that they could then stand with the dignity of their tipuna alongside of them, invoked, I guess, by the whakaido, the tukutuku panels, and all those other references, the treaty, those things that they had built, our culture around at that point. So it would have been very important to them at that time, yeah.
So are these purely artworks, or do they hold kōrero that's quite unique to this room?
I think because, as you see around here, you see the past MPs, so it's sort of created that sense of whakapapa in a political sense. So I think that's really important. But as successive generations of politicians have come through here, Māori politicians, it's created that kind of sense like a wharenui in terms of how we express whakapapa, and in this context, not so much a kinship-based relationship, but a political-based relationship and a more pan-tribal reflection of whakapapa. So it stepped into new territory.
The room's construction in 1922 was led by Sir Apirana Ngata, who at that time was pushing for a revival in Māori arts and culture.
So this is very early on in that journey of revitalisation of the arts then. So this very much reflects where things were at that point. With Te Arawa carvers coming in to do this work, that was one of the few areas in the country where the legacy of whakaido had been maintained. And so they were the experts who came down and were part of that. Of course, later on, they helped train alongside the East Coast carvers, and then it flourished further through the Arts and Crafts Institute to train many others in many other tribal areas. So this is at that very beginning point, really.
In 1922, the 4 Māori seats were held by Apirana Ngata, Taurekareka Henare, Henare Uru, and Maui Pomare. It was a time when all legislation passed was sent to Britain for approval, a time when bills were passed to carry out a poll to see if alcohol could be sold to natives in the Harauta district, limitations on land tax for native lands were made, and the Tongariro National Parks Act was passed.
I can just imagine the kōrero that was had here and the debates.
Yeah, I know, and we're very mindful of that. We speak quite quietly in here. We are in a bit of reverence of the words that are embodied in all of these tukutuku panels and this whakaido. And even very recently, I know of tribes coming and part of their settlement processes have chosen to use this room for those very significant moments in their history have been witnessed by this room. So it is a witness to so much. I suppose over time it's built this sort of presence.
It's a reference that continues with the restoration work.
It's also about drawing back in descendants of the carvers, about bringing that very living face of our people to this mahi. So that's why we have the interns here to really reconnect in that sort of way.
Kia ha tō hononga ki te reunga nei?
Me ki rā tūnatahi ake ka timata i tōku ingoa ko Matangireia. Yates Francis tōku ingoa, engari anō nei whakapapa nei ki ngā hunga i whakairotia, i tuituia i ngā tukutuku anō hoki, te nuinga, no taku mōhio no te rohi o te arawa.
Because of Sir Apirana Ngata's relationship with Te Arawa carvers through the establishment of the Māori Arts and Crafts Institute in Rotorua, he brought carvers te Kiwi Hinare me te Amohau of Ngāti Whakauwe and te Ngaru Ranapia of Ngāti Pikiao to lead the project.
We putau i te kura, i te taurua mano te kaumāwhitu. Ai, no, koine ngā tohunga. Tahi rautau ki muri, ana ko mātou e whai ana i a rātou.
Every panel and carving is being meticulously recorded.
What they're doing at the moment is recording the patterns, and these will be matched up with the reports and the condition reports that were done in 1990 by Jack Fry. So when the next lot have to come and do any work in here, maybe 30 years' time, they've got a record of what was done in 2022, and then it just gives a history for the room.
Because this is history in the making, really, isn't it?
It's an ongoing history, yeah. I mean, it would have been a first and a revelation probably back in the day when it opened in 1922. 22 is a lot earlier than a lot of wharenuis that are around the motu. I think after this place, Apirana went back up and built Poraurangi and all those other big whareasalo. You'll see their dates are all around 25, 27. So this, we must have sort of thought, oh, this is what the people need about that. Because you get the Māori population had a flu epidemic, sort of took down numbers, and he saw that as a way, especially when he had Maui Pomare as the health minister to help drive. So it was a way of uplifting the people again and getting people to come and weave tukutuku. It was not only binding these elements like kahotai, but binding the people together again just to pick them up after those times anyway.
How does this project compare to other restoration or conservation projects that you've done?
Oh, this is a special place. Wharenuis at home are more used by the people, the hapu, the whānau. So you'll get a lot of different wear and tear in those buildings. You know, you get haututu little fingers like to pick at tukutuku. Whereas these ones here, I think, have been damaged over the years by just chairs going up against the back of them. And it's around about that height that the previous repairs that were probably done by my mum in her time, they got her to come down, and you can see the newer kia on here where she's had to repair. And that's about the height of the backs of the chairs. So when they were, she would have repaired most of it was down the bottom of the panels if they go around the room. And so she's done a repair. But where she's repaired, these other, the rest of the kia is still 100 years old.
Kia was harvested locally from the Zealandia Wildlife Sanctuary, and repair work will be completed this month for next month's opening of a room symbolic of so much.
I mean, you know, that door at the back there, it was a passageway for Māori to come through, so they would never have to walk through the doors of parliaments, and yet here we are today walking through it like, you know, proud. And then you have our tipuna here who help create a pathway for it to happen. And it wasn't just, you know, they did it within the realm of politics on a national scale, but then you also had your own back at home who are doing these small little things. You feel very privileged and honoured. And to have the likes of Matua and Rauko, Matua Jim here to, you know, share their knowledge, it just takes me back to the days of learning when Maikro and Kuio, and then we're teaching us wata and hitori within the whare. That's the type of environment that they created basically in here.